Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pods. I am Leonardo.
Whoa! Good morning, students. And I'm Elizabeth.
Today, we are diving into something a little different, like really different.
Different good or different,
Oh, definitely different good. Today, we are exploring an essential topic for anyone looking to excel in English. Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another deep dive? You guys gave us so much to work with this time around, all about resilience and problem solving.
Some fascinating stuff for sure.
Right. And this piece, how to become strong in the face of life's problems, it really stood out. Today, let's unpack that and pull out the most useful advice so you can walk away feeling equipped to tackle those everyday challenges.
Sounds like a plan.
And get this, the source suggests that problems can actually be opportunities for growth, not just surviving them, but actually, becoming better because of them. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a powerful shift in perspective. We often see problems as like these negative roadblocks, but imagine if we could reframe them as stepping stones on the path to becoming stronger, more resilient.
It's not about pretending problems don't exist or wishing them away. It's about changing our fundamental relationship with them.
Absolutely. It starts with acknowledging that problems are, well, a universal experience. It's not a sign of weakness or failure. It's just, part of being human.
Okay, so step one is accepting that problems are inevitable. But how do we move from just accepting them to actually overcoming them? The source talks a lot about developing a growth mindset. What exactly does that mean? In a practical sense, I mean.
Well, think about it this way. When you face a setback with a growth mindset, you see it as an opportunity to learn. Your brain actually creates new neural connections as you grapple with challenges, making you more adaptable, more resilient over time. It's like building mental muscle.
So instead of getting stuck in a cycle of why me, it's about asking, what can I learn from this?
Precisely. That shift in perspective, it can be incredibly empowering. Instead of feeling defeated, you start to see setbacks as valuable feedback that can help you grow, develop new skills.
That makes sense, but it also sounds really challenging, especially when you're in the middle of a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
The source also talks about building emotional resilience. I feel like that's key here. But it's not just about slapping on a happy face and pretending everything's fine.
No, you're right. It's not about denying or suppressing your emotions. It's about developing the ability to acknowledge those emotions, understand where they're coming from, and then choose how you want to respond to them, like having a toolkit.
Ah, okay.
A toolkit of coping mechanisms that you can draw on when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Can you give an example of what one of those tools might look like?
Sure, let's say you receive some criticism at work. That really stings.
Yeah.
Instead of letting that criticism send you into a spiral of self-doubt, you could take a step back. Acknowledge that feeling of being hurt or disappointed, and then choose to reframe the situation. Maybe you can see the criticism as an opportunity for growth, or use it to, identify areas where you can improve.
So it's about shifting your perspective from feeling like a victim to becoming more proactive in how you manage your emotions.
Exactly. And that's a skill that can be learned, strengthened over time with practice, like building mental and emotional fitness.
Okay, we've talked about mindset. We've talked about emotional resilience. But what happens when a problem feels so massive that you don't even know where to start? This source has a whole section on breaking problems down. I feel like everyone can relate to that feeling of just being completely overwhelmed. What's the key takeaway there?
The key is to avoid getting terrorized by the sheer size of the problem. Instead of trying to tackle it all at once, you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. It's like planning a road trip, a cross-country road trip. You wouldn't focus on the entire journey at once, would you?
No way.
You map out each leg of the trip, focus on one destination at a time.
Makes sense. So instead of one giant obstacle, you have a series of smaller challenges that feel a little bit more achievable.
Right. And as you start tackling those smaller challenges, you gain momentum, a sense of progress. Each small win builds your confidence, motivates you to keep going.
Okay, I'm already feeling less overwhelmed just thinking about it that way. But I'm also the type of person who really struggles with asking for help. I always feel like I should be able to handle everything on my own, which is probably, not the most productive approach.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a common struggle. And the source actually mentions this too. Challenges that misconception that asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Some of the most successful people in the world built their empires by surrounding themselves with with brilliant minds by seeking out diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Recognizing that you don't have all the answers is actually, it's a sign of strength, self-awareness.
I've never thought of it that way,
Mm.
but it makes so much sense. It's like even Superman had his Justice League. So it's not about being superhuman. It's about knowing when and how to leverage the support of others. When is it really beneficial to ask for help? What are some examples?
Well, imagine you're facing a complex problem at work, technical problem. Instead of struggling alone for hours you could reach out to a colleague, someone with more expertise in that area. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed by a personal challenge, talking to a therapist, a counselor can provide valuable insights, coping strategies.
Makes sense. And it's not just about seeking practical advice either, right? Sometimes just having someone to listen, to offer emotional support, that can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And remember, support can come from a variety of sources: friends, family, colleagues, mentors, support groups. The key is to identify the type of support you need and then actively seek it out.
Okay, so we've talked about shifting our mindset, building emotional resilience, breaking problems down, asking for help when we need it. It feels like there's a common thread here, a sense of taking control, becoming more proactive in how we approach challenges.
You're right. And that leads us to another important concept from the source: focusing on what you can control. There are always going to be factors outside of our control, but we have a choice. We have choice in how we respond to them.
This reminds me of that serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That's a perfect illustration. It's not about becoming passive or giving up. It's about making wise choices about where to direct your energy, your effort.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that while you may not be able to control the storm, you can control how you steer your ship.
And that sense of agency, of knowing you have some control, even in difficult situations, it's incredibly empowering, isn't it?
Absolutely. It shifts the focus from feeling helpless to feeling capable, which is a crucial element of resilience.
So it sounds like developing this ability to focus on what you can control is really about becoming more mindful, more intentional in how you approach challenges.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next key area from the source: developing strong problem-solving skills. Having a framework for approaching problems systematically, effectively. Think of it as your mental toolbox for tackling challenges.
So we've got our mindset in place, our emotional toolkit ready, and we're focusing on what we can control. But what about those moments when we feel completely stuck? Like we're staring at a problem and have absolutely no idea how to solve it. What tools should we be adding to that mental toolbox?
Well, the source offers a really practical problem-solving framework. And it starts with clearly defining the problem. It might sound obvious, but so often we jump into trying to solve something before we fully understood what the problem actually is.
It's like trying to fix a car engine without knowing which part is broken.
Exactly. So we need to clearly define the problem.
Okay, then what?
Then you gather as much information as you can. What are the potential causes? What resources are available to you? Who can you ask for help? For advice. It's like conducting an investigation.
So step 1, define the problem. Step 2, gather information. What's next?
Then you start brainstorming potential solutions. And here's where it gets interesting. You don't limit yourself to just the obvious or the easy answers. You want to be as creative and as open-minded as possible. Explore all the different possibilities.
So it's not about settling for the first solution that comes to mind. It's about really pushing yourself to consider different approaches.
Exactly. And once you have, a list of potential solutions, you start evaluating them. What are the pros and cons of each option? The potential risks and rewards? What's the most feasible solution given your current resources, your constraints?
Okay, I'm seeing how this framework can be really helpful. Provides a more structured approach to problem solving. But does this mean we need to become like expert logicians or something?
Not at all. Remember, problem solving, it's a skill you develop over time with practice, like learning to play a musical instrument. At first, it might feel awkward, unfamiliar, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
So it's not about being born a brilliant problem solver. It's about approaching challenges with that growth mindset and practicing those problem-solving skills until they become second nature.
Precisely. And here's the really cool part. The more you practice problem solving, the more confident you become in your ability to handle future challenges. It's a positive feedback loop that that strengthens your resilience over time.
I love that.
Right.
It's like each problem you solve adds another tool to your mental toolbox, so you're better equipped to face whatever comes your way.
Exactly. And it's not just about mental strategies either. The source also highlights this important connection, the connection between physical and mental health and our ability to cope with challenges.
Right, because when you're feeling physically drained, run down,
Yeah.
even small problems can feel insurmountable.
Exactly. The source mentions a bunch of tips, but one that really stands out to me is the importance of sleep. We often sacrifice sleep when we're stressed or busy, but it's one of the most crucial things we can do for our mental and physical well-being.
Oh, tell me about it. When I'm sleep deprived, my fuse is so much shorter and everything just feels 10 times harder.
Right, and there's a scientific reason for that. When you're sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and emotional regulation, it literally doesn't function as well. You're more likely to, you know, react impulsively, make poor choices, and just feel completely overwhelmed by challenges.
So it's like trying to solve a complex equation when you're running on fumes. You simply don't have the mental clarity or stamina to do your best thinking.
Exactly. And that's why prioritizing sleep is so crucial for building resilience and developing strong problem-solving skills. It's like charging your mental battery so you can tackle challenges with more energy, more focus.
I never thought of it that way, but it makes so much sense.
You know, it's funny, we were just talking about sleep, and the source actually dives deeper into the science behind why it's so important for problem solving. Turns out, when we sleep, our brains are busy,
Busy doing what?
consolidating memories, making connections between different pieces of information. It's like, our brains are working behind the scenes to help us make sense of the world, find solutions.
So it's not just about resting our bodies. We're actually giving our brains the time and space they need to process information and come up with like creative solutions.
Exactly. And when we're sleep deprived, well, that process gets disrupted, which can lead to, poor decisions, reduced creativity, and increased stress, that feeling of overwhelm.
So it really sounds like prioritizing sleep is not just like a nice to have, but it's a must do to become a more resilient and effective problem solver.
Definitely a wise move. And while we're talking about taking care of ourselves, the source also mentions, other aspects of physical health, nutrition, exercise.
Yeah, it's not just about mental strategies. Our physical well-being plays a huge role in how we cope with stress and challenges.
Absolutely. When we nourish our bodies with healthy foods, engage in physical activity, we're giving our brains and bodies the fuel they need to function at their best.
So it's like a holistic approach to resilience, taking care of both our minds and our bodies, recognizing that they're interconnected, and both play a vital role in our ability to face challenges head on.
Exactly. It's about creating that foundation of well-being that supports us in all areas of our lives.
Okay, so we're taking care of ourselves physically and mentally. But what about those times when problems feel so complex, we don't even know where to begin unraveling them? The Force mentions a step-by-step approach to problem solving that I found really helpful. Can you walk us through that a bit more?
Of course. So the framework, it starts with clearly defining the problem. Oftentimes, we jump into trying to solve something before we fully understand what the problem really is.
It's like trying to put together a puzzle without like even glancing at the picture on the box.
Exactly. So the first step is to clarify what you're dealing with. Ask yourself, what are the specific symptoms? What are the underlying causes? Who is affected?
Okay, so we're gathering information, really trying to see the problem from all angles. What's next?
Then you can start brainstorming solutions. And this is where it gets fun. Be creative, open-minded. Don't limit yourself to just the most obvious or easy answers.
So it's about like thinking outside the box,
Right.
exploring different possibilities.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask for help during this stage. Sometimes a fresh perspective can spark a brilliant solution you might not have thought of on your own.
Having a brainstorming buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've defined the problem, brainstormed some potential solutions. What's the next step in this problem-solving framework?
Lay it on me.
Now you evaluate those solutions. Pros and cons of each option, potential risks and rewards. What's the most feasible solution given your resources and constraints?
So it's not just about coming up with ideas, it's about analyzing those ideas
Yeah.
and choosing the one that's, most likely to be effective.
Exactly. And important to remember, there's rarely a perfect solution. There will often be trade-offs. You might have to make some tough choices.
That's a good point. It's about making like informed decisions based on the best available information, even when it involves some risk or uncertainty.
Precisely. And that's where your skills and emotional resilience come in. You're making the best decision you can with the information you have, and you're accepting that, hey, there may be unforeseen challenges along the way.
So being strategic, but also adaptable, knowing that the path to a solution isn't always straightforward.
Exactly. And this leads us to the next step, taking action. You've chosen a solution. Now you need to make a plan and put it into motion.
So not enough to just think about solutions.
Yeah.
Got to actually take action.
Right. And this is where persistence and follow-through are so crucial. You'll probably encounter setbacks, obstacles. But the key is to stay focused on your goal. Keep moving forward.
It sounds like having a strong sense of purpose, a commitment, is essential for pushing through those inevitable challenges.
Absolutely. Connect back to your values, your why. Why is solving this problem important? How will it improve your life or the lives of others?
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day struggles and lose sight of the big picture.
It is. And remember, setbacks happen. It's not about avoiding them. It's about having that resilience to get back up, dust yourself off, keep going.
Speaking of bouncing back, this piece talks about optimism, even offers some tips for cultivating a more positive outlook.
Yeah, and it's important to differentiate between healthy optimism and what some people call toxic positivity.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not about denying the negative or pretending everything is perfect.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging those challenges, but choosing to focus on the positive where you can, finding those glimmers of hope.
So a balanced perspective, recognizing that life has both joys and challenges.
Precisely. And this ties into another concept from the source, adaptability.
Life is definitely full of surprises. And this piece talks about embracing change as a chance to grow.
It's so easy to resist change, especially when it feels forced upon us. But if we can shift our perspective, view change as an opportunity, it can be incredibly empowering.
Do you have a real-life example of someone adapting successfully to a challenging situation?
Absolutely. Think about all those online businesses that popped up during the pandemic. So many brick-and-mortar stores had to close. But the ones that adapted, embraced e-commerce, not only survived, they thrived.
That's a great example. Shows that even in the face of adversity, there's always the potential for innovation, for growth.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of being open to new ideas, flexible in our approach.
Okay, so we've covered so much ground. Mindset, emotional resilience, problem solving, physical health, patience, adaptability. What's one key takeaway from the source that really stuck with you?
For me, it's this idea that we have more control over our experience than we often think. It's not about being immune to challenges, but about developing that inner strength, the mental tools to navigate them effectively.
It's not about avoiding problems. It's about becoming stronger because of them.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message, isn't it?
It is. We're all superheroes in training,
Yeah.
learning to harness our inner strength, develop those mental superpowers.
I love that analogy. It highlights that resilience is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifelong process of learning, of growing, of becoming more and more capable of handling whatever comes our way.
And that brings us back to the beginning of our deep dive. The goal isn't to avoid problems altogether, but to develop the skills and the mindset to navigate them effectively.
So it's not about being superhuman or never facing challenges. It's about having the right tools to face them head on.
Exactly. And those tools include, everything we've talked about today, a growth mindset, emotional resilience, strong problem-solving skills, a supportive network, and of course, a commitment to taking care of ourselves both physically and mentally.
It's so empowering to realize that we actually have more control than we often think we do. It's not about letting problems, dictate our lives, but about taking ownership and finding proactive solutions.
And remember, progress isn't always linear. There will be setbacks, frustrations, but the key is to keep learning, keep growing, keep moving forward.
I love that. Embracing the journey, all its twists and turns, and recognizing that every experience, even the tough ones, they contribute to our growth, our resilience.
It's a lifelong process, right? The more we practice all these skills, the more confident and capable we become.
You've given us a lot to think about. I feel like I have this whole new perspective on problems and how to actually approach them now.
That's what we like to hear. But remember, it's not about being, immune to challenges. It's about having that inner strength, that ability to weather the storm. And that brings us to a question for you.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Well, it's just one small change you can make this week based on all this stuff we talked about. to strengthen your own resilience, your own problem-solving abilities. Maybe it's trying that new mindfulness technique, or finally reaching out to a friend for support.
Or just committing to getting a good night's sleep. We talked about how important that is.
Whatever it is, make it a priority this week. And remember, even small steps, they can make a big difference over time. And you don't have to do it alone, right? We're all in this together.
Absolutely. We're all on this journey to become stronger, more resilient.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into, well, into becoming stronger in the face of life's problems. It's been fascinating, and we really hope you've walked away with some valuable insights, some tools to help you navigate your own challenges.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving forward.
We'll see you on our next deep dive.